When people think of ancient Egypt, they usually feel like the mystery has already been solved. We know the dates, we know the dynasties, and we know the pharaohs. But archaeology doesn't just ask when something was built, it asks how. And in Egypt, the how becomes increasingly difficult to explain the more carefully we measure what survives. Because scattered across the Nile Valley are structures that are not just impressive for their age, but precise in ways that demand advanced planning, repeatable methods, and institutional knowledge. This does not mean that Egyptians had modern machines, and it also does not mean anything supernatural. It means that entire systems of practical knowledge, methods of measurement, stoneworking, logistics, and training were once common and then quietly disappeared. We know what they built, but in many cases, we no longer fully understand how they did so consistently. The Great Pyramid of Giza has been studied for centuries, yet it still resists simple explanation. Each side of the pyramid is aligned to true north, south, east, and west with astonishing accuracy, deviating only by a fraction of a degree. Achieving this level of alignment would have required reliable methods for determining cardinal directions, long distance straight line measurement, and ways to transfer alignment across hundreds of meters without distortion. The base of the pyramid is also nearly perfectly level. Across its entire footprint, the variation is less than an inch. This is not something that can be achieved by eye alone. It suggests the use of water leveling techniques, reference benchmarks, and repeated verification during construction. What makes this more puzzling is that later pyramids often show less precision, not more. If this were a matter of gradual technological process, we would expect accuracy to improve over time. Instead, we see evidence of highly refined system early on, followed by a gradual decline. That suggests this knowledge did not slowly evolve. It peaked and then parts of it were lost. Inside the Great Pyramid, the internal passages add another layer of complexity. The Grand Gallery rises at a precise angle using corbelled stonework that redistributes weight upward and outward. Modern engineers still study this design because of how effectively it manages stress. Above the king's chamber sit massive granite beams, forming what is often called as stress relief chambers. These beams weighed tens of tons and were placed high inside the structure with careful spacing and alignment. The surfaces are flat, the beams are parallel, and the chambers function exactly as intended. These were not symbolic features. They were engineered solutions to structural problems. Their existence implies careful planning before construction began, an understanding of load distribution, and the ability to position massive stones with precision inside an enclosed space. At the base of the Giza Plateau stands the Valley Temple of Khafre, a structure that often receives far less attention than the pyramids themselves. Though it is built from enormous granite blocks fitted together so tightly that even today it is difficult to pass a blade of paper between some joints. Granite is significantly harder than limestone, yet these blocks were squared, smoothed, and set without the use of mortar. These interior walls show wear patterns that suggest finishing methods beyond simple pounding or rough grinding. The surfaces are consistent, the corners are sharp, and the joints are deliberate. The mystery here is not whether the Egyptians could work on granite at all. It is how they did it repeatedly, predictably, and at such a large scale. This level of consistency implies controlled processes and skilled labor trained over long periods of time. Another example of this amazing engineering is the Serapeum of Saqqara. The Serapeum of Saqqara is one of the most technically challenging sites in all of Egypt, yet it remains relatively unknown to the general public. Beneath the desert lies a network of underground tunnels containing enormous granite sarcophagi, each weighing between 70 and 100 tons. Each sarcophagus features flat internal surfaces, right angles that remain consistent, and lids that fit with extremely tight tolerances. The interiors were carved after the exterior was shaped, meaning the stone had to be hollowed with precision rather than simply shaped from the outside. Transporting these massive objects into underground tunnels would have required pre-planned access routes, careful load distribution, and coordinated teams working in confined spaces. What is most striking is that this was not a single exceptional object. It was a standardized process repeated multiple times using methods that left very few surviving tools behind. The system that made this possible no longer exists. Obelisks also represented Egypt's mastery of stone at monumental scale. These were carved from a single piece of granite, sometimes weighing over 1,000 tons, and then transported long distances along the Nile and raised upright with remarkable accuracy. The unfinished obelisk at Aswan provides rare insights into this process. Still attached to the bedrock, it reveals quarry grooves, planned dimensions, and the moment when a crack in the stone forced the builders to abandon the project. This single artifact shows how ambitious these undertakings were and how carefully they were planned. Removing that much material required coordination, time estimation, and quality control. Raising an obelisk once it was complete introduced an entirely new set of challenges that we still debate today. The fact that later civilizations moved obelisks but struggled to produce new ones suggests that the original methods were already fading from memory. Egyptian builders did not focus only on what rose above the ground. Their foundations were prepared with remarkable care. Temple complexes were leveled across large areas with minimal variation, and drainage systems were built to protect structures from seasonal flooding. This required an understanding of soil behavior, water flow, and long-term structural stability. These are not intuitive skills. They are learned through experience and passed down through training. When that training system collapsed, the knowledge disappears with it. Most Egyptian technical knowledge was not written down in detail. Instead, it was transmitted through apprenticeship, organized labor groups, and oral instruction. These made the system efficient but fragile. As political power weakened and resources declined, these institutions slowly collapsed. Later builders could replicate the appearance of earlier monuments, but not always the processes behind them. Over time, the visible decline in precision reflects the gradual loss of institutional memory. The monuments survived, but the methods did not. Egypt challenges the idea that history always moves forward. Skills can peak, stabilize, and then disappear. Civilizations do not just lose wars or territory. They lose measurement systems, craft traditions, and engineering intuition. What we see in Egypt is not lost technology in the modern sense. It is lost organizational knowledge, systems that depended on people, training, and continuity. The greatest mystery of ancient Egypt is not that they built these structures. It is that the knowledge required to build them did not survive intact. What remains are pyramids, temples, obelisks, and stone chambers, objects so precise that they still challenge our assumptions about the ancient world. They are not evidence of magic. They are evidence that human knowledge is fragile, and that when systems break, even the most advanced skills can vanish, leaving only stone behind. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and if you have your own thoughts about how the Egyptians achieved this level of precision, let me know in the comments. I'd like to hear what you think. Till next time, goodbye.